Good evening, everybody. This is Cruiser Chris from the Cruiser Chris World Network. I'm coming to you this evening because I want to tell you about something. I'm practicing with live streaming software. I'm using Streamlabs, trying to do streams on my phone, and I just downloaded it for the first time today, and it's been a little rough. Let me just be honest with you. So, sorry for the bad communication. I don't know if you could hear me, but we are on a mission for 1,000 subscribers so that I can just go live straight through Facebook and not have to worry about, ready, calm, or having to establish a connection or anything like that. But until I hit 1,000, I am going to be experimenting with Streamlabs. So if you do see me on the computer or my cell phone practicing with Streamlabs, just know that that's me doing that, and please be patient with me as I'm learning how to do what I want to do for all of you. Earlier today I put out a video as a tribute to the memory of the healthcare workers of 9/11 that worked on that fateful day, some of which did not make it home to their families. So for those that we did lose on that day, we should do what we can to remember them so that their memories do not go in, or so their sacrifices do not go in vain. It takes a really willing participant to put on the uniform and go work on the front lines. And to those people who were serving back on 9/11, we say thank you for your service. And for those people who are serving today, we say thank you for your service. And we ask you to come together to remember those who we lost on that fateful day 19 years ago. I remember exactly where I was when 9/11 first happened. I was in the basement going to I was in the hallway of my high school, actually, if I'm being really honest. And I was going to I don't remember what period it was, but I was going to gym class. And gym class was in the basement of our high school, where I live locally here. And I remember we met, me and another classmate met in the hallway outside of one of the special education rooms that that existed at the time at our high school. And everybody was just had a sense of foreboding and sadness. Of course, I was out in the hallway, so of waiting to go downstairs for my gym class with my classmate and the teacher we had at the time. And I just can remember, and I still get a little bit emotional talking about it, even though it was almost 20 years ago. But I can still remember the looks on the teachers' faces as I remember that CBS, we had CBS News Radio on, or they had CBS News Radio on in the special ed room, and everybody was kind of huddled. Sorry, I'm having trouble talking this evening. Everybody was kind of huddled together, wondering, what do we do, and where do we go from here? Is it a good idea to keep going with the school day? And they made the determination finally that it was okay to go with the school day, but everybody's mind was not really focused on the schoolwork for the remainder of the day. And I just remember thinking to myself, because this was a very, very, very life-changing event that had taken place in the history of our country. And I just remember, all the teachers. There was one teacher that I had. She was one of the Phi Ed teachers. And right when the planes hit the World Trade Center, they were wondering, was it gonna hit us? Because nobody knew at the time. And one of the teachers happened to have one of her family members in New York, and I think the story goes that he was going to be having a meeting at one of the trade centers that morning, or maybe he was just in New York for another function or something. But we went downstairs when we heard that the first plane had started hitting the World Trade Center. And this was right in our first hour classes. So, I guess I could backtrack a little bit and say that, everybody found out differently that day and reacted differently. I, of course, being my journalistic, investigative mind, wanting to know more information, and if everybody was okay, I wanted to know more and more and more and more. And the teachers, I must say, did a remarkable job that day of keeping us focused on what we needed to do at that particular time, and making sure that we were kept safe and secured over at the school that I was at. Like I said, I was in high school at the time. So I was about 15 years old, going into my freshman year of high school. So back to us getting into gym class. The first plane, I'm not exactly sure what time the first plane hit. Maybe it was like 8:45 Central Time. And then when the first plane hit, it was just, everybody just thought, oh, it's just a plane crash, and everybody kind of put it off and kind of said, put it out of our mind. We'll look into it, and if there's any more we need to let you guys know about, we'll let you know about it. But then it really became real, because I was in transit from my first hour class to my second period class. And this happened to be a gym class. And I remember the gym teacher had a very concerned look on his face that day when I saw him. And he said, I said, what happened? I said, what happened? And he said, a plane just hit the World Trade Center. And I said, do you happen to know what size of a plane it is? Is it a civilian plane? Like a small twin engine plane, or a jet? And he said that he didn't really know yet, but they were further investigating what might have happened. And yeah, it's just it's a really tough day to look back on, but I do it every year because I feel like that is a day of somber remembrance for me, because those people gave their lives through no fault of their own. And I just feel that they deserve to be honored and stuff like that. So that's why I watched the That's why I watch the coverage of 9/11 stuff every year. Is to just because to just take a minute and pay my respects to the people who tragically lost their lives that day, and the people whose lives were changed forever that day. So anyway, we got downstairs to the gym class, and the teachers were all huddled together because things were kind of moving fast, and nobody really knew what was going on. You know, we had some sort of an idea of what was going on, but we didn't really know for sure. And so we went downstairs to the gym room, and the teacher that I had described earlier, she had a brother that was in New York for a meeting. And of course, when you have a family member that's trapped in a zone like that, you're very emotional. And you really, the first thing you're really thinking about is trying to make sure that your family member that you love dearly, who you think may be in that situation, is safe. So, we had a male teacher and a female teacher. The male teacher worked with the two of us that were in a wheelchair because he was the adaptive Phy-Ed teacher. And then there was a normal Phy-Ed teacher that just another teacher that worked with the regular class. And so to continue with the story, the teacher that had the brother that was in New York, she was the female teacher. She went and tried to make a phone call, and she asked the other teacher who was cross-trained to work with everybody, but just he specialized in adaptive Phy-Ed. And so she asked the teacher, the male teacher, if he could stay with the class and kind of watch the class until she was able to go and make the phone call that she needed to make to find out if her brother was okay. And the other teacher agreed to watch the class for the female teacher. And I can just remember after she left the room, because when you're 15 years old, you you know, you always just expect to see your teachers happy and, smiling and, and stuff like that. But it really was a profound look for me because I had never really seen somebody cry before. I mean, because people that were around me had already had cried either in private or, they were explaining things to me as while they were crying, so I understood why they were crying. But it was really a surreal day. It was just one of, those days. And I will remember where I am probably or where I was for the rest of my life on that day. That was such a profound event in the history of America and the world, really, that not only me, but probably other people as well will remember where they were on the day that the world changed forever. So I think that the female teacher eventually got through to her brother and was able to find out that he was okay and stuff and that he had gotten to a safe place, but she was gone for like 45 minutes, and in that 45 minutes that she was gone, there was just an eerie silence. You had a class full of 30 kids, and the kids didn't know what to say. Well, I mean, America had just been attacked by a terrorist. I mean, what do you say when you're in a situation like that? I mean, I'm sure that everybody just started praying, and I did too. But it was just really odd to see that day when things started happening. That, you have people that are normally composed and very well put together and organized with their thoughts, crying and hysterical at the same time. But of course, I can understand why that is, because when you have somebody in that kind of situation, it really, really, really can have a profound effect on you. So then we went on about our day, and I went home that afternoon, and I just started watching the news. And I was thinking to myself, this is gonna change the world forever. Why would anybody do this? And both my mom and dad kind of tried to get us to do stuff to get our mind off of it. And but it was just a tough day, because before that, you know, I thought of America as like an impenetrable, nothing could happen to us. My mom and dad would talk about it without us around, because my dad was in that industry, so he understood how aircraft works and stuff like that, and he flew a lot for work that he did at the time. So they would talk about it, but it really hit home for me on that day when I saw the carnage and the chaos and the tragedy. That was really the first big tragedy that people from my generation remembered. Sure we had tragedies before, but all the other tragedies happened when I was younger, and they were in more of a localized area of the country. So they didn't really get a lot of coverage. But 9/11 was probably the first event that I remember that got worldwide coverage from all the networks, not just the 24-hour news networks, but you had ABC, CBS, Fox, NBC. They did 24/7 coverage. 24-hour-a-day coverage. It was 24/7, day and night, for 3 days. Maybe even 3.5 days. Because something like 9/11 had never happened before in this country. Sure, we had the assassination of President Kennedy and all of the other historic things that are all of the other historic events that have taken place in our past, but this event was a different event in that, number one, it had never happened to America before. The terrorist attacks had always happened overseas, in other countries. It had never happened on, or at least in my recollection, it never happened on such a magnitude as 9/11 was. And it was, like I said, a world-changing event of a magnitude that has yet to be that has yet to be surpassed by any future event. That was, in my opinion, one of the top events in the it wasn't a good event, so let me clear that up, but it was one of the most tragic and historic events in U.S. history, if not the most tragic and historic event in U.S. history at the time. And so I'm going to close out this video, but I just want you to, the next time you see a law enforcement or a firefighter or an EMT or a doctor or a first responder, just say thank you. Because sometimes, especially during events like 9/11, those guys go to work and they go to the front lines to try to help us through very tragic moments in the history of our country and the world sometimes. And they don't come home sometimes because they end up making the ultimate sacrifice. So, here are the questions, or the question that I'm going to pose for this video. Where were you when 9/11 happened? And, how did 9/11 change your perspective on the world? And I'm going to ask a question that I asked in an